They told her she was broken. They told her she was useless. And on the coldest night of the decade, the Silver Creek Pack didn't just exile their barren Omega. They stripped her of her warmth and left her to freeze in the Devil's Pass. They thought the snow would bury their secrets. They thought Sienna Mercer would be a frozen corpse by morning. But they made one fatal mistake. They forgot that the blizzard doesn't kill the monsters. It wakes them up. And when the Alpha King finds what they threw away, he won't bring her back as a refugee. He'll bring her back as their queen. The wooden floorboards of the pack house, meeting hall, creaked under the weight of 300 wolves. But the silence was so absolute you could hear the wind rattling the icy window panes. Sienna Mercer stood in the center of the circle, her head bowed. She was 22, with hair the color of roasted chestnuts, and eyes that had once been bright green, but were now dulled by years of shame. She wore a thin, grey sweater that had seen better days. Hand-me-downs were all an Omega was entitled to, especially a broken one. "Sienna Mercer," the voice of Alpha Brock boomed from the dais. He was a massive man, thick-necked and scarred, sitting on a high-backed oak chair that served as the throne of the Silver Creek Pack. "Step forward." Sienna took a single, trembling step. Her hands were clasped so tightly behind her back that her knuckles were white. She dared not look up. To look an alpha in the eye while under judgment was an act of aggression. "For 3 years," Alpha Brock continued, his voice grating like gravel, "this pack has fed you. We have sheltered you. We have protected you. And in return, we asked for one thing. One simple duty that every female wolf is born to fulfill." He paused, letting the accusation hang in the stagnant air. "To provide the next generation, to strengthen our lines." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Sienna felt their stares like physical blows, heavy, judgmental, disgusted. "And for 3 years," Brock spat, "your womb has remained as empty as a dry well. You are barren." The word hung there. Barren. In werewolf society, it was a death sentence for status. An Omega's value was often reduced to labor and lineage. If you couldn't fight, you worked. If you couldn't work, you bred. Sienna, small and physically weak compared to the warriors, had only one potential value, and she had failed. "It's not her fault, Father," a voice spoke up, though it lacked conviction. Sienna's heart fluttered. Liam. Liam was the Alpha's son, her childhood sweetheart, the boy who had promised her the world when they were 16, before he presented as a dominant Alpha, and she as a recessive Omega. He stood to the right of his father, looking handsome in his black tactical gear, but his eyes were darting away, refusing to meet hers. "Silence, boy," Brock snapped. "Sentimental weakness is what brought us here. You have wasted your prime years waiting for this defect to produce an heir. The neighboring packs are growing stronger. The northern clans are encroaching. We need strong blood, and we need it now." Brock gestured to the woman standing beside Liam. "Felicity." Sienna's stomach turned to ice. Felicity was tall, blonde, and radiating smug satisfaction. She was everything Sienna wasn't, voluptuous, confident, and, rumor had it, very fertile. She had her hand placed possessively on Liam's bicep. Liam didn't shake her off. "The pack elders and I have made a decision," Brock announced. "The winter stocks are low. The blizzard season is upon us. We cannot afford to waste resources on dead weight." Sienna finally looked up. "Alpha, please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I work hard. I clean the infirmary. I cook for the trainees. I take double shifts in the laundry. I earn my keep." "You consume more than you produce," a sharp voice cut from the crowd. It was Mrs. Halloway, the head of the supply committee. Meat is scarce, Sienna. Why should a productive warrior starve so a barren Omega can eat? We have voted. Brock silenced the room with a raised hand. Effective immediately, the mating bond between Liam and Sienna is annulled on the grounds of biological incompatibility. A scream trapped itself in Sienna's throat. An annulment was agonizing, a tearing of the soul. And, Brock added, a cruel glint in his eye, Sienna is hereby stripped of her pack status. She is rogue. No! Sienna fell to her knees. Alpha, please, it's January. The forecast says a superstorm is coming tonight. Exiling me now it's murder. Then you better start running before the snow hits, Brock said coldly. You have 1 hour to clear pack lands. If you are found within our borders after sunset, the Border Patrol has orders to kill on sight. He looked at his son. Liam, escort her to the edge of the territory. Ensure she takes nothing of value. Sienna looked at Liam, pleading with her eyes. Save me. Fight for me, just once. Liam's jaw tightened. He looked at Felicity, who whispered something in his ear and kissed his cheek. He took a deep breath, his expression hardening into a mask of indifference. Let's go, Sienna, Liam said, his voice flat. Don't make this harder than it has to be. As Sienna was dragged out of the hall, the last thing she saw was Felicity resting a hand on her stomach, smiling a smile that said, I won. You lost. Die quickly. The wind at the border of Silver Creek territory wasn't just cold. It was malicious. It felt like 1,000 knives slicing through Sienna's skin. They hadn't even let her take a coat. This is it, Liam said, stopping by the old mile marker that separated the pack lands from the uncontrolled wilderness known as the Devil's Pass. Sienna stood in the snow, wearing only her thin sweater, worn jeans and sneakers that were already soaked through. Her teeth chattered so violently she could barely speak. Liam, she managed, tears freezing on her cheeks instantly. You know I won't survive the night. Please, just let me stay in the old hunting shed. I won't bother anyone. I'll leave in the spring. Liam looked at her, and for a second she saw the boy she used to love. The regret in his eyes was palpable. I can't, Si. My father, he's watching the perimeter. If I help you, he'll challenge my claim to the succession. I can't lose my birthright for you. Your birthright? Sienna laughed, a brittle, hysterical sound. I'm talking about my life, Liam. You're choosing a title over my life? Liam looked away, his shame transforming into anger to protect his ego. Maybe if you weren't so broken, we wouldn't be here. Did you think I wanted a mate who couldn't give me a son? I waited 3 years, Sienna. 3 years of pity looks from the other alphas. I'm done waiting. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small pocket knife, a gift she had given him for his 18th birthday. He threw it at her feet. For protection, he muttered. That's the best I can do. Then, without looking back, he shifted. His bones cracked and reshaped, fur sprouting, until a large russet wolf stood in his place. He gave a low huff, turned, and sprinted back toward the warmth of the pack house, leaving her alone in the encroaching dark. Sienna watched him go until the white curtain of snow swallowed him whole. She picked up the knife. It was cold against her palm. Coward, she whispered. She turned to the wilderness. She had to move. If she stopped moving, she died. It was that simple. She began to trudge north, toward the mountains. There was a rumor of a rogue sanctuary somewhere past the peaks, but it was days away. The snow was already calf-deep and falling faster. 1 hour passed, then 2. The temperature plummeted. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at her clothes. Her fingers were numb, then painful, then numb again. A bad sign. Frostbite was setting in. Her vision began to blur, the white landscape tilting and spinning. I'm going to die here, she realized. The thought was strangely calm. Felicity will have Liam. Brock will have his strong pack, and I'll just be a frozen lump of meat for the crows. She stumbled over a hidden root and fell hard. The snow rushed into her mouth, cold and suffocating. She tried to push herself up, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Her energy was gone. Get up, she commanded herself. Get up, Sienna. But her body refused. The cold was a heavy blanket now, inviting her to sleep. It promised that the pain would stop if she just closed her eyes. Just for a minute, she thought, curling into a ball to preserve the last heat of her core. I'll just rest for a minute. As her consciousness began to drift into the black, she felt a vibration in the ground, a rhythmic thumping. Thump, 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 footsteps. No, too heavy. Paws. A predator. Good, she thought fuzzily. Let it be a bear. Make it quick. Through her eyelashes, encrusted with ice, she saw a shadow emerge from the whiteout. It was massive, far larger than any wolf from Silver Creek. It was a beast of shadow and night, its fur so black it seemed to absorb the little light remaining in the world. The beast stopped a few feet from her. It let out a low growl that vibrated in her chest, rattling her very ribs. Sienna couldn't move. She couldn't even shiver anymore. She stared up at the red eyes glowing in the darkness. The Alpha King, she thought, remembering the nursery rhymes. The monster of the north. The giant black wolf lowered its head, sniffing her. Its breath was hot, smelling of pine and blood. It nudged her cheek with a wet nose. Sienna let out a whimpering breath, her final surrender. Please, she whispered, though she didn't know what she was asking for. Death? Mercy? The wolf didn't bite. Instead, a strange whine escaped its throat. It shifted. The cracking of bones was louder than the wind. The massive beast dissolved, reshaping into the form of a man. He was huge, naked to the waist in the freezing storm, his skin radiating a supernatural heat. He had long, dark hair, plastered to his neck, and a beard that framed a jaw sharp enough to cut glass. He dropped to his knees in the snow, scooping her up as if she weighed nothing. I have you, a voice rumbled. It was deep, commanding, and laced with an anger that wasn't directed at her. Who did this to you, little wolf? Sienna couldn't answer. Her head lolled against his burning chest. Stay with me, the stranger commanded. He ripped off a fur cloak he had been carrying and wrapped it around her, engulfing her in the scent of cedar and ozone. I am Roman Sterling, and I do not give the snow permission to take you. Roman Sterling, the Alpha King, the most dangerous wolf on the continent. He stood up, clutching her to his chest, and began to run. He didn't run away from the storm. He ran through it, parting the wind with sheer force of will. As the darkness finally took her, Sienna had one last thought. Why is the King of Alphas holding a Barren Omega, like she is the most precious thing in the world? Sienna woke to the smell of burning birchwood and lavender. She didn't open her eyes immediately. In her mind, she was still in the snow, freezing to death. She expected the biting wind. She expected the numbness of the afterlife. Instead, she felt something impossibly soft beneath her cheek. Silk. High thread count silk. She shot up, gasping, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She wasn't in the snow. She wasn't in a cell. She was in a room larger than the entire ground floor of the Silver Creek pack house. The walls were made of dark, polished stone that seemed to absorb the flickering light of the massive fireplace. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out onto a jagged mountain range, but the glass was thick, keeping the howling storm at bay. The furniture was heavy mahogany, upholstered in velvet the color of midnight. Where am I? Sienna scrambled backward, pressing her back against the massive headboard of the four-poster bed. She looked down at herself. Someone had stripped her of her wet, frozen clothes. She was wearing a man's t-shirt, black, smelling of cedar and rain, and so large it swallowed her small frame completely. The door handle turned. Sienna's instinct, honed by years of abuse, kicked in. She rolled off the opposite side of the bed and squeezed herself into the narrow space between the mattress and the wall, pulling her knees to her chest. The door opened. Heavy footsteps entered. "I can hear your heartbeat, little wolf," a deep voice rumbled. "It sounds like a hummingbird. There is no need to hide." It was him. The man from the storm. Roman Sterling. Sienna didn't move. She held her breath. She heard him sigh, a sound that was more exasperated than angry. The footsteps moved closer, stopping right beside the bed. A hand, large and scarred, rested on the mattress. "I brought food," he said. "Venison stew, fresh bread, and hot tea. You need calories. Your body is consuming itself to stay warm." The smell of the food wafted down to her hiding spot, and her stomach gave a treacherous growl. "I'm not coming out," Sienna squeaked, her voice raspy. "You're the Alpha King. You kill rogues. Just do it quickly. I don't want to be tortured." There was a pause. Then the entire bed shifted as Roman sat down on the edge. "If I wanted you dead, Sienna, I would have left you in the snow. Do you know how hard it is to carry a frozen wolf 20 miles through a blizzard without crushing her ribs? I put in a lot of effort to keep you breathing. I'd hate to waste it by killing you now." The logic was sound. Slowly, hesitantly, Sienna peeked her head up. Roman was sitting there, holding a silver tray. He looked even more terrifying in the light of the fire. He was massive, easily 6'5", with shoulders that strained the fabric of his black button-down shirt. His eyes were a startling shade of amber, glowing with an inner predator's light. But his expression, it wasn't cruel. It was intense, calculating but not cruel. "Eat," he commanded, holding out a bowl. Sienna climbed out, trembling, and took the bowl. She ate ravenously, burning her tongue, not caring. Roman watched her every move, his gaze heavy, unblinking. "Why?" she asked between bites. "Why save me? I'm nothing. I'm a barren omega." "I was exiled." Roman's eyes darkened. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 5 degrees. "Barren," he repeated the word, as if it tasted like ash. "Is that why they threw you away? Because you didn't breed?" Sienna flinched. "I couldn't give the Alpha's son an heir. I served no purpose. It's the law of the pack." "It is the law of weak packs," Roman growled. He stood up, pacing to the window. "In the Obsidian Pack, we value strength of spirit, not just biology. You survived 3 hours in the Devil's Pass wearing nothing but cotton. Most trained warriors die in 20 minutes. That is not nothing, Sienna." He turned back to her. "But you are correct about one thing. You are an Omega, a rogue Omega in my territory. That makes you my responsibility." "I can work," Sienna said quickly, putting the bowl down. "I can clean. I'm good at laundry. I don't want charity." Roman let out a dark chuckle. He walked back to her, tilting her chin up with one finger. His touch sent a shockwave of electricity down her spine that made her toes curl. "You will not be scrubbing floors in my palace, Sienna. You are my guest, and until my physician clears you, you are not to leave this suite. Is that understood?" "Physician?" Sienna panicked. "No, I don't need a doctor. There's nothing wrong with me other than the cold. Please don't make me see a doctor." She was terrified they would confirm it again, that they would look at her womb and see the emptiness, the defect. She couldn't bear to hear it from another stranger. "It is not a request," Roman said, his voice dropping to that command tone that forced her wolf to submit. "Dr. Silas is on his way. You will let him examine you, because I need to know exactly what those Silver Creek bastards did to you." Dr. Silas was a greying, stern-faced man with spectacles and hands that smelled of antiseptic. He set up a portable ultrasound machine and a blood testing kit on the bedside table. Roman refused to leave the room. He stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching like a sentinel. "It's okay," Dr. Silas said gently, seeing Sienna's terror as he drew a vial of blood. "I'm just checking your vitals. You're severely hypothermic and malnourished, but your healing factor is kicking in. It's slow, though. Slower than it should be for a wolf your age." "I'm weak," Sienna whispered, staring at the ceiling. "I've always been weak. And barren." Dr. Silas paused. He glanced at Roman, then back at Sienna. "Barren? You've been diagnosed?" "Yes. By the Silver Creek pack doctor. For 3 years I never went into heat. Not once." Dr. Silas frowned. He applied the gel to her abdomen and pressed the ultrasound wand against her skin. He stared at the monitor for a long time. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. "Sienna," Dr. Silas said slowly, "look at the screen." She shook her head. "I don't want to see the empty space." "It's not empty," Silas said. "Your reproductive system is perfectly intact. In fact, based on the energy readings I'm getting, you are an Omega Prime." Sienna blinked. "What?" "Omega Prime," Roman clarified from the corner, his voice low. "The rarest classification. High fertility, high resilience, capable of bearing pups that are stronger than pure-blood alphas. It is a genetic lottery win." "That's impossible." Sienna sat up, wiping the gel off. "If I'm an Omega Prime, why didn't I heat? Why couldn't I give Liam a child?" Dr. Silas walked over to a machine where he had been running her blood sample. He held up a printout, his face grim. "Because," Silas said, "you have massive concentrations of Aconitum vulparia in your bloodstream." "Wolfsbane," Sienna gasped. "But that kills us." "In large doses, yes," Silas explained. "But in micro doses, it suppresses the wolf. It halts the heat cycle. It mimics infertility. Someone has been feeding you wolfsbane for a long time, Sienna. Likely since you presented at 18. The room spun. "Feeding me?" Sienna whispered. "But I ate the same food as everyone else. The pack meals." "Did you take any supplements?" Roman asked, stepping forward. "Vitamins? Tonics?" Sienna's mind flashed back. Mrs. Halloway, the head of the supply committee. Every morning she gave all the Omegas a vitality shot, a bitter herbal drink she claimed was to help them work harder. "Mrs. Halloway," Sienna breathed. "She gave us morning tonics." "Did anyone else turn out barren?" Roman asked. "No, just me." "But—" Sienna stopped. She remembered something. "Felicity. Felicity helped mix the tonics. She's the alpha's intended mate now." Roman swore loudly. He punched the stone wall next to the fireplace. The stone cracked. "They poisoned you," Roman snarled, his eyes glowing so bright they looked like flares. "They poisoned a prime Omega to steal her birthright. That boy, Liam, he wanted you, but he wanted a strong heir more. And that woman, Felicity, she removed the competition." Sienna felt like she was going to be sick. It wasn't nature. It wasn't God punishing her. It was them. For 3 years she had hated herself. She had cried herself to sleep, apologizing to Liam for being broken. And all the while, Felicity had been smiling, handing her a cup of poison every morning. "Why?" Sienna sobbed, burying her face in her hands. "Why not just kill me? Why torture me for 3 years?" "Because an Omega Prime is valuable currency," Roman said, kneeling beside the bed again. "If they couldn't control you, they disabled you, and when you became too expensive to feed, they discarded you." He took her hands, pulling them away from her face. His grip was fierce. "Listen to me, Sienna. You are not broken. You are not barren. You are a weapon that has been kept in a sheath for too long." Dr. Silas packed up his bag quietly. "The poison will leave her system in a few weeks, now that she isn't ingesting it. Her heat will come shortly after. It will be intense. Years of suppressed hormones hitting at once." Roman nodded at the doctor. "Leave us." Silas bowed and exited. Sienna looked at Roman. The dynamic had shifted. She wasn't just a refugee anymore. She was a victim of a crime that made the Alpha King shake with rage. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Roman said, standing up and smoothing his features into a mask of cold determination. "You heal, you eat, you sleep, you get strong." "And then?" "And then," Roman walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the frame. "I am going to pay a visit to Silver Creek, and I am going to burn their packhouse to the ground." "No," Sienna said. Roman froze. He looked back, surprised. "You defend them? After this?" "No," Sienna said, her voice shaking, but her chin raised. "I don't defend them, but I don't want you to burn it down for me." "Then what do you want?" Sienna's green eyes, usually so soft, hardened into emerald shards. "I want to go back," she said, "when I'm strong. I want to walk through the front door. I want them to see what they threw away, and I want to be the one to take everything from them." A slow, dangerous smile spread across Roman's face. It was the smile of a monster recognizing another monster. "As you wish," he whispered. "We will make them beg for the mercy of the blizzard." 2 weeks passed in the Obsidian Palace. Sienna's transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Without the wolfsbane poisoning her blood, her skin regained a creamy, healthy glow. Her hair, once brittle, grew lustrous and thick, falling in waves down her back. Her ribs were no longer visible through her skin. But the biggest change was her scent. Before, she had smelled faintly of dust and old rain, the scent of a weak wolf. Now she smelled of vanilla orchid and wild honey. It was a scent so potent it made the palace guards stumble when she walked past. Roman kept his distance. He was respectful, almost agonizingly so. He gave her the run of the library, the gardens, the kitchens. He ate dinner with her every night, listening to her talk about her life, her hobbies, the books she liked. He was courting her, though neither of them used the word. But the tension was building. One evening, Sienna was in the library, trying to reach a book on the top shelf. She stretched, her sweater riding up slightly. Suddenly, a warm chest pressed against her back. "Allow me," Roman's voice rumbled in her ear. He reached up easily, grabbing the book. But he didn't step away. He boxed her in against the shelves, his arms on either side of her head. Sienna's breath hitched. She could feel the heat radiating off him. She turned slowly to face him. They were inches apart. Roman was staring down at her, his pupils blown wide, swallowing the amber iris. He sniffed the air near her neck, a ragged inhale. "You smell," he groaned, his voice rough. "You smell like mine." Sienna's heart skipped. "Roman? My wolf is going insane, Sienna. For 2 weeks, I have been a gentleman. I have given you space, but you are testing my control." "I'm not trying to," she whispered. "Aren't you?" He leaned closer, his nose grazing her jawline. Every time you walk into a room, the air changes. Every time you smile at the guards, I want to rip their throats out. Do you know what that is? Sienna shook her head, though she suspected. It's the mate bond, Roman murmured against her skin. I felt it the moment I pulled you from the snow. But I couldn't claim you. You were too weak. You were dying. He pulled back slightly to look her in the eye. But you aren't dying anymore, Sienna. You are alive. You are vibrant. And I am losing my mind. Sienna stared at him. The Alpha King. Her mate. Liam had never looked at her like this. Liam had looked at her with pity or annoyance, or eventually disgust. Roman looked at her like she was the only source of oxygen in the room. Sienna started, but stopped. A sharp pain twisted in her lower abdomen. A wave of heat, hotter than fire, exploded in her core. Her knees buckled. Roman caught her instantly, scooping her up into his arms. Sienna. It hurts, she gasped, clutching his shirt. Roman, it's burning. Roman's eyes widened. He sniffed her again, and this time a low growl tore from his throat. The doctor was right, he said, his voice straining with control. The wolfsbane is gone. Your heat, it's starting. Now. He turned and strode out of the library, moving with urgent speed toward the grand staircase. Put me down, Sienna panted, though she buried her face in his neck, inhaling his scent, which now smelled like safety and desire. I need to go to my room, alone. You are going to your room, Roman growled, taking the stairs 2 at a time. But you are not going alone. An Omega Prime's first heat after suppression is dangerous. The fever can kill you if you aren't anchored by an alpha. He kicked open the door to her suite and laid her on the bed. Sienna writhed, the fever taking hold instantly. It felt like her blood was boiling. She needed ice. She needed water. No, she needed him. Roman stood by the bed, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He was fighting a war with himself. Sienna, he said, his voice sounding like gravel grinding together. I will not take advantage of you. I can help you through the fever without completing the bond. I can hold you. But you have to tell me what you want. Sienna looked up at him through a haze of heat. She saw the restraint, the honor. He was the king of all wolves, and he was asking for permission. She thought of Liam, who had thrown a knife at her feet. She thought of the cold snow. And then she looked at the man who had warmed her when the world wanted her frozen. I don't want you to just hold me, Sienna whispered, reaching a hand out to him. Roman froze. I want you to claim me, she said, her voice gaining strength despite the fever. I want to be yours, Roman. I want to be the queen. Roman let out a roar that shook the glass in the windows. He stripped off his shirt in one fluid motion, revealing a torso of sculpted muscle and scars. Then you shall be, he vowed, climbing over her, blocking out the light, blocking out the past, blocking out everything but him. By dawn, the whole world will know that the Barren Omega is gone, and the Shadow Queen has risen. 3 months had passed since the night Sienna Mercer was left to die. Spring had come to the Silver Creek territory, but the pack was not flourishing. The winter had been brutal. Stocks were low, and morale was rotting from the inside out. Alpha Brock was aging rapidly, his strength failing. Liam, now the acting alpha, was a shadow of himself. He was constantly tired, snapping at subordinates, his eyes hollow. And Felicity? She was the queen of the pack, but whispers were spreading. She was showing a baby bump, yes, but she refused to let anyone but the pack doctor examine her. She spent the pack's dwindling treasury on silk dresses and imported fruits, while the Omegas starved. It was a Tuesday morning when the sentries sounded the alarm. Intruders! The howl went up. At the north gate, an army! Liam rushed out of the pack house, buttoning his shirt. Brock followed, leaning heavily on a cane. They expected a rival pack, or perhaps the northern clans coming to raid. What they found froze the blood in their veins. It wasn't a raid. It was a procession. A convoy of 12 matte black armored SUVs sat idling at the border. Flanking them were 50 warriors, not ordinary wolves, but the Royal Guard. They wore the obsidian black tactical gear of the King's army, their faces masked, their presence radiating a lethal, disciplined power. A hush fell over the gathered Silver Creek wolves. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The lead SUV's door opened. A driver stepped out and opened the rear door. First, Roman Sterling emerged, the Alpha King. He wore a charcoal grey suit that cost more than the entire Silver Creek pack lands. He exuded an aura of dominance so crushing that half the Silver Creek wolves instinctively dropped to their knees. Liam swallowed hard, stepping forward. "Your Majesty, we weren't expecting you. To what do we owe the honor?" Roman didn't answer. He didn't even look at Liam. He turned back to the car and extended his hand. "Come, my queen," Roman said, his voice carrying across the silent field. "Let them see." A slender hand, adorned with a ring featuring a black diamond the size of a quail's egg, took his. Sienna stepped out. The collective gasp of the Silver Creek pack was audible. She was unrecognizable. The grey, starved, trembling girl in the hand-me-down sweater was gone. In her place stood a woman of breathtaking power. She wore a tailored emerald green dress that hugged her curves that were now lush and healthy. Her chestnut hair tumbled in shiny waves around her shoulders. Her skin glowed with vitality, but it was her eyes that had changed the most. The dull green was now vibrant, piercing, and glowing with the faint, golden rim of a wolf who has fully embraced her power. "Sienna," Liam stammered. He took an involuntary step forward, his nose twitching. The scent hit him then. Vanilla orchid, wild honey, and power. She smelled like an Omega Prime. She smelled like royalty, and underneath it all, she smelled of another male. "Hello, Liam," Sienna said. Her voice was smooth, cool like river water. She didn't look at the ground. She looked him dead in the eye. You're alive," Alpha Brock wheezed, staring at her. You thought the snow would kill me," Sienna finished for him. She walked forward, her heels clicking on the pavement. The Royal Guard parted for her. Roman walked a step behind her, a silent, deadly shadow. "You thought I was weak? You thought I was broken?" She stopped 10 feet from where Liam and Felicity stood. Felicity had just run out of the house, clutching her belly, her face pale. "Sienna," Felicity squeaked, "what are you doing here? You were exiled. You can't be here." "I am not here as Sienna Mercer, the Exile," Sienna said, raising her chin. "I am Sienna Sterling, Queen of the Obsidian Pack, mate to the Alpha King." "Mate?" Liam choked out the word. He looked from Sienna to Roman, his face crumbling. "No, that's impossible. You're mine. We had a bond. An annulment doesn't break the soul tie. You broke the tie when you threw a knife at my feet and told me to die," Sienna said coldly. "And my king fixed what you broke." Roman stepped forward then, his growl vibrating through the ground. "You speak to my wife with respect, boy, or I will rip your tongue out before we even begin the trial." "Trial?" Brock stiffened. "What trial? We have broken no laws. We exiled a Barren member to save resources. It is the Alpha's right." "Is it?" Sienna asked. She gestured to one of the SUVs. "Dr. Silas, please." The royal physician stepped out, carrying a briefcase. He walked over to Sienna, opened the case, and pulled out a stack of documents. "We aren't here to discuss the Exile," Sienna said, her voice dropping an octave. "We are here to discuss attempted murder, conspiracy, and the poisoning of a high-ranking wolf." She threw the papers at Liam's feet. They scattered in the breeze. "Read it," she commanded. Liam picked up a page. His eyes scanned the chemical breakdown. Wolfsbane. Long-term suppression. Aconitum vulparia found in blood samples. "I wasn't Barren, Liam," Sienna said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "I was poisoned. For 3 years. Every morning." Liam looked up, confusion warring with horror. "Poisoned? By who?" Sienna's eyes snapped to Felicity. "Ask your perfect mate," Sienna hissed. "Ask her about the morning tonics. Ask her why she was so desperate to keep me weak." All eyes turned to Felicity. The blonde woman stumbled back, clutching her stomach. "She's lying. She's jealous. I'm pregnant with the heir. You can't touch me." "Are you?" Dr. Silas spoke up, adjusting his glasses. "Because I'm looking at your medical files from the local clinic. We seized them an hour ago." Silas held up a file. "You aren't pregnant, Felicity. You have a phantom pregnancy induced by hormonal supplements. The same supplements you bought from the black market. The same dealer who sold you the wolfsbane." The silence that followed was absolute. Liam turned to Felicity slowly. "What? He's lying!" Felicity screamed, her voice shrill. "Liam, look at my belly! I'm carrying your son!" "Drop the illusion, Felicity," Roman commanded. He used his alpha voice, a sound like a cracking whip. Under the sheer pressure of the king's command, Felicity's control snapped, her glamour faded, her posture slumped. The bump didn't disappear. It was a padded prosthetic under her dress. She wasn't pregnant. She never had been. Liam stared at her stomach. Then he looked at Sienna. The woman he had loved. The woman who was actually an Omega Prime. The woman who could have given him everything if he hadn't been so weak, so easily manipulated. "You," Liam whispered to Felicity. "You poisoned her. You lied to me. You made me send her away." "I did it for us," Felicity cried, grabbing his arm. "She was useless. We needed power, Liam. I could give you power." Liam shoved her away. He fell to his knees in the dirt, putting his head in his hands. He began to sob, a broken, pathetic sound. "Save your tears," Sienna said, looking down at him without an ounce of pity. "The blizzard doesn't care if you're sorry." "This pack is under new management," Roman announced. His voice boomed across the territory. "Alpha Brock and his son are hereby stripped of their titles for incompetence and crimes against the crown." The Silver Creek Wolves didn't object. They were starving, tired, and terrified. They bowed one by one, submitting to the king. What will you do to us?" Brock asked, his arrogance finally gone, replaced by the trembling of an old man facing his end. "I wanted to burn this place to the ground," Roman admitted, lighting a cigarette and watching the smoke curl into the air. "But my queen is more merciful than I am." He turned to Sienna. "It is your judgment to pass, my love." Sienna looked at the 3 people who had ruined her life. Brock, the tyrant who valued strength over loyalty. Liam, the coward who valued reputation over love. And Felicity, the snake who used poison to steal a crown. "I won't kill you," Sienna said quietly. Relief washed over Liam's face. "Thank you, sir. Don't thank me," she cut him off. "Death is too quick. You made me walk into the Devil's Pass with nothing but the clothes on my back. You told me to survive." She pointed to the north, toward the mountains, toward the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. "The 3 of you are exiled," Sienna declared, "effective immediately. You may take no supplies, you may take no weapons, you may take no vehicles." "But a storm is coming," Felicity gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "It's going to be 10 below zero tonight." Sienna smiled. It was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Then you better start running." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object. She tossed it into the dirt at Liam's knees. It was the pocket knife he had given her. "For protection," she echoed his words from that night. "That's the best I can do." The royal guard stepped forward, their guns raised. "Move!" the captain barked. Liam looked at Sienna one last time. He saw the king's hand resting protectively on her lower back. He saw the glow of the bond between them. Unbreakable, ancient, powerful. He realized then that he hadn't just lost a mate. He had lost a goddess. With a defeated howl, Liam shifted into his wolf. Brock and Felicity followed, shifting painfully. The three wolves, one old, one weak, one fake, trotted toward the tree line, their tails tucked between their legs. Sienna watched them go. She watched until the white curtain of the wilderness swallowed them whole. She felt the ghost of the cold wind on her face, but she wasn't cold anymore. She would never be cold again. Roman wrapped his arms around her from behind, pulling her flush against his chest. He kissed the sensitive spot behind her ear. "It is done," he murmured. "Are you all right?" Sienna leaned back into him, closing her eyes. "Yes, I'm free." She turned in his arms, placing her hands on his chest. "Let's go home, Roman. I have news." Roman raised an eyebrow. "News?" Sienna took his large hand and moved it down, pressing it flat against her stomach. The warmth there was new, a tiny spark of life that was already strong, already fierce. "Dr. Silas checked me this morning," she whispered, a tear finally escaping, not of sadness, but of joy. "The emptiness is gone, Roman. The heir to the obsidian throne is on the way." Roman went perfectly still. His amber eyes widened, filling with a raw, overwhelming emotion. He dropped to his knees right there in the mud, in front of his army, in front of the Silver Creek pack. He pressed his face to her stomach, inhaling the scent of the new life. "A pup," he choked out. "My son. Or daughter." "Both," Sienna laughed, stroking his dark hair. "Twins, Omega Prime genetics, remember?" Roman roared. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated triumph that shook the trees and sent birds scattering into the sky. He stood up and lifted Sienna high into the air, spinning her around as the royal guard cheered and the Silver Creek wolves howled in salute to their new queen. The Barren Omega had died in the blizzard, but the Mother of Kings had risen at dawn. And as the snow began to fall softly on the empty path where Liam and Felicity had disappeared, Sienna didn't look back. She only looked forward, into the warmth of the sun. 4 months later. The storm season had returned. The Obsidian Palace was in lockdown, not because of an attack, but because the Queen was in labor. Sienna lay in the birthing bed, sweat plastering her hair to her forehead. The pain was unlike anything she had ever imagined. It wasn't just physical, it was magical. The twins were Alpha blood and Omega Prime, blood mixed. Their energy was short-circuiting the lights in the room. "Breathe, Sienna. Look at me." Roman was there, holding her hand so tight his knuckles were white. He looked terrified. The king who scared nations was trembling at the sight of his wife in pain. "I can't," Sienna screamed. "It's too much energy. They're draining me." Dr. Silas was at the foot of the bed, looking grim. "The pups are siphoning her aura to manifest. It's a side effect of the prime genetics. Your Majesty, you need to share your strength with her through the bond. Feed her your power, or the birth will kill her." "Take it," Roman commanded, pressing his forehead to hers. "Take everything, Sienna. Take my strength." He opened the mental floodgates of the bond. Sienna gasped as a rush of raw, molten power flooded into her. It was the strength of the Alpha King, ancient, dark, and limitless. Revitalized, she pushed with a roar that sounded more wolf than human. The first cry pierced the air. "A boy," Dr. Silas announced. "Strong, healthy." Sienna sobbed with relief, but the pain ramped up again instantly. The second one. 10 minutes later, a second cry joined the first. "A girl," Silas smiled. "Perfect." Roman collapsed onto the chair beside the bed, burying his face in Sienna's neck. "You did it! God, Sienna, you did it!" Sienna held the two bundles. The boy, whom they named Atlas, had Roman's dark hair. The girl, Luna, had Sienna's chestnut curls. It was the happiest moment of their lives. And then the lights went out. Not flickered. Died. The emergency generators didn't kick in. The medical machines beeped and went silent. The room was plunged into pitch blackness. "Stay here." Roman's voice changed instantly. The tender father was gone. The Alpha King was back. "Silas, guard them." Roman moved to the door. "Guards. Status." There was no answer from the hallway. Just the wet sound of something heavy hitting the floor. The door creaked open. A figure stood there, illuminated only by the lightning flash from the window. He was gaunt, skeletal almost. His clothes were rags made of animal skins. He smelled of rot, old blood, and madness. "Liam?" Sienna whispered, clutching her babies closer. Liam stepped into the room. He held a jagged, rusted iron bar in his hand. His eyes were yellow and wild, spinning in their sockets. He looked at the babies, and a sound came out of his throat, a laugh that sounded like dry leaves skittering on pavement. "I missed the baby shower," Liam rasped. Roman didn't hesitate. He didn't speak. He launched himself at Liam, but Liam didn't fight. He threw something on the floor, a glass vial. It shattered, releasing a cloud of purple gas, wolfsbane gas. Concentrated, Roman hit the gas cloud and crumpled midair, his limbs seizing. It was a potent neurotoxin, likely stolen from the same black market Felicity used. Roman crashed to the floor, gasping, paralyzed. "Roman!" Sienna screamed. Liam stepped over the king's twitching body. He walked toward the bed. Dr. Silas tried to intervene, but Liam swung the iron bar with supernatural, manic strength, knocking the doctor unconscious against the wall. It was just Sienna, and the twins, and the monster from her past. "Look at them," Liam cooed, leaning over the bed. The gas was dissipating, but it lingered enough to make Sienna dizzy. She couldn't shift. She was exhausted from labor. "They should have been mine, Sienna. We were supposed to be the power couple." "You chose Felicity," Sienna spat, shielding the infants with her body. "You chose this." "I chose wrong," Liam nodded, tears streaming down his grimy face. "But I can fix it. If I can't have the heirs, no one can." He raised the iron bar. Sienna looked at the weapon, then at Roman on the floor, struggling to move a finger. She realized no one was coming to save her. "I am the queen," she thought. "I am the storm." As Liam swung the bar down, Sienna didn't scream. She reached deep inside herself, past the exhaustion, past the fear, into the place where the Omega Prime magic lived. She didn't shift. She didn't have the energy. Instead, she projected. "Kneel!" The command didn't come from her throat. It came from her soul. It was a command of such magnitude that the windows of the bedroom shattered inward. Liam froze. The bar hovered inches from her head. His wolf, even broken and mad, recognized the voice of a supreme queen. His knees buckled against his will. He fought it, his veins popping, foaming at the mouth, but his body obeyed the alpha command. He slammed onto his knees by the bed. Sienna snatched a surgical scalpel from the bedside tray. "You should have stayed in the snow, Liam." she whispered. She drove the scalpel down into his jugular. Liam gurgled, his eyes widening in shock. He slumped forward, his head resting on the mattress, blood pooling on the white sheets. The madness faded from his eyes, leaving only a boyish regret. "See," he breathed, and then he was gone. The lights flickered back on. Roman finally fought through the toxin, scrambling to the bed, ready to tear the world apart. He found his wife, sitting amidst the shattered glass and blood, holding their sleeping babies, with her ex-mate dead at her feet. Sienna looked up at Roman. She looked exhausted, terrifying, and beautiful. "Clean this up, my love," she said softly. "The children are trying to sleep." And that is how Sienna Mercer turned her tragedy into a dynasty. She showed us that your value isn't defined by the labels people put on you, broken, barren, or weak. Sometimes the people who try to bury you don't realize you are a seed. Sienna didn't just survive the winter. She became the winter, and then she brought the spring. If you enjoyed this story of betrayal, revenge, and the ultimate glow-up, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. What do you think happened to Liam and Felicity in the woods? Did they survive, or did the karma finally catch them? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next episode of Wolfpack Tales. Until next time, stay wild.